It has been some time since I saw you last. If I remember correctly, it is on the 11th. I remember because you are number 1. Twice. Have you booked your party? I'm sure your friends will show up this time.
So is Cassie, the character who we met in FNAF Ruin, going to be the next Vanny? This has become an extremely popular topic for a theory/prediction for Security Breach 2. Well, here's all my thoughts and predictions on what it could mean if she is the next Vanny. Is she a villain? Is she even possibly an anti-hero? Let's talk about it. And the place where I would like to start with why it feels like Cassie should be the next Vanny is something to do with character building and character arcs, which admittedly within FNAF is super confusing and can be very difficult to follow at times. And the main reason because of this is just because how Scott and Steelwool has released the FNAF games over the years. For example, when Scott released Five Nights at Freddy's 1, we all thought Five Nights at Freddy's 2 was a sequel, which it was, but it was also a prequel. So any characters that we may have met in FNAF 1, we kind of had to go backwards in their character building if they appeared in FNAF 2. And it's the exact same way in the new era FNAF games. In Help Wanted, we met some new characters, which then got expounded upon in Security Breach. And then we met even more new characters in Ruin. And then, boom, we're sent back to 1979 with Secret of the Mimic. However, it seems that Steelwool was focusing in on certain characters to complete their story arc. For instance, the Mimic and the creation of the Mimic. But there was one character of FNAF that when it was introduced into the series, I was like, we're definitely going to get more of her in the future. And obviously I'm talking about Cassie here. Scott and Steelwool just don't randomly insert characters into their series. They've never done that before. Every single character plays an extremely important role in the overall story of FNAF. And so to say that they introduced and killed off Cassie in Ruin, in my opinion, makes absolutely no sense. And I believe that Ruin was very much definitely setting something bigger up for Cassie and Gregory. But let's talk a bit about Cassie herself and what we have theorized about her in the past. She's obviously pretty close friends with Gregory, enough so that she's willing to risk her life to try to find him. It also seems that she has been to the Pizzaplex before by remarks she makes, as well as saying that she used to spend time at the daycare. We also find out from her that her father was a Fazbear technician, which a lot of people have theorized was the person we played as in Help Wanted 2, which is a theory that I personally believe. It also appears that Cassie does not have a lot of friends, and almost seems to care about the animatronics at the pizzeria more than anything else. And so with that being said, we can already tell within the course of Ruin, there's a lot of character building with this character. At first when she's introduced, she seems kind of whiny, not really wanting to be there, but to be completely honest, who would want to be at a dilapidated Pizzaplex? But then as you keep going, we encounter these animatronics that she's always liked ever since she was a little kid, but they keep trying to attack her, or she's having to deactivate them herself. It's extremely heartbreaking, and it makes you really start to feel emotionally connected to Cassie as a character. And just also the fact that she's risking her life to find Gregory, who then turns out not even to be Gregory. It's been the Mimic the whole time, tricking her. And then in one of the endings, it seems that she was betrayed by the friend who she was trying to save, Gregory. But we will get back to that in a moment. It almost seems at the end of Ruin, Cassie has no one. She's not connected to anyone or anything. She's alone. And for those of you thinking that the elevator most likely would have killed Cassie at the end of Ruin, here's something to keep in mind. We have absolutely no possible idea how high that elevator was within Ruin. Now this is just speculation here, but the area where we encounter the Mimic and the Nexus program is already very deep underground under the Mega Pizzaplex. And so, in my opinion, it's fully safe to assume that that elevator maybe isn't even 30 feet from the ground. And by making the elevator drop, all it would really do would be just to knock Cassie unconscious. Then that begs the question, who dropped the elevator? Now this has been a controversy for many years, however, I am a firm believer that it is actually the Mimic who dropped the elevator, not Gregory. Although, to Cassie, it seems that Gregory dropped the elevator. There's a moment in the voice line when Gregory's speaking to us through the speaker in the elevator that it shorts out, which is the perfect opportunity for the Mimic to be taking that over, and then drops the elevator. After all, the Mimic is still up there at the door, possibly where control panel is to be able to do that. And I also think it's worth to mention that there is actually a voice line in Ruin from Gregory telling Cassie that he's not even at the Pizzaplex and something is trying to trick her. Now that doesn't 100% mean that he couldn't have been the one who dropped the elevator. I just think it would have been more of a possibility if he was actually at the Pizzaplex. And it's at this point in time that I believe would be the perfect opportunity for someone to be manipulated by something. And that's where the whole Cassie Vanny theory comes into play. A lot of people have been theorizing that the mask that she was given by the mask bot in Ruin connected her to the Vanny network, but not only the Vanny network, because as we know, the system that she's in is also connected to the Mimic or Glitch Trap in some way by the appearance of Helpu, who sometimes argues against itself in the Vanny mask. Which means if she put on this AR mask, which to be honest, locks into her brain, which we hear when she first puts it on, then that would mean she's been fully exposed to Glitch Trap, or at this point we can call it the Mimic, because we know it's the one running everything, it's the one mimicking Gregory's voice, it's the one manipulating Helpy in the AR mask. Basically using Cassie as a servant to release it, which is basically what Glitch Trap did with Vanessa. He made her a servant. And so it's possible if the Mimic is behind all of this, reaching out to Cassie, making Cassie let it out, what if it's trying to recruit another follower? That leads us into what could Cassie Vanny actually be? For one, it's just kind of a direct copy of what happened with Glitch Trap and Vanessa. Glitch Trap is now controlling Cassie, causes her to create herself a new suit that's darker to hide within the shadows of the ruins of the Pizzaplex. She already has the AR mask in which she modifies for herself, and she's able to move swiftly throughout the entire Pizzaplex, and almost becomes one with the AR world, which could possibly be a hint to why the teaser that Steelwool posted glitches and we see this new Vanny character. I mean, after all, half the time in the gameplay of Ruin, we are glitching through walls and objects. And to be honest, in my personal opinion, the mask that Vanny is wearing in this new teaser image looks very much more similar to the Vanny mask from Ruin. It doesn't seem to be made out of cloth like Vanessa's mask does in Security Breach. It seems to be almost made out of metal or some other sort of plastic or ceramic materials. And to be completely honest, this teaser image of Vanny could simply be concept art and could very much change by the time we actually get the actual game. The next possibility of what this Cassie Vanny could be is, yes, she is part of the AR world, but she's acting more as an anti-hero on the behalf of the animatronics that were destroyed by the Mimic and Fazbear Entertainment. And she's also trying to seek out revenge on Gregory, who she believes is the one who betrayed her, leading her on this wild rabbit chase to almost get killed, and then at the very end, drop her in an elevator. In my opinion, I think this would be a very different turn for FNAF and would be, honestly, pretty entertaining to play. If Security Breach 2 is a jump forward in the future with an adult Cassie and an adult Gregory, Gregory would be forced to face the demons of his past, so to say, if he never knew what actually happened to Cassie as the Mimic lured her to the Pizzaplex, and then Cassie shows up again, but this time is trying to take his life because she thinks he was the one who tried to take hers. Just imagine the awesome story that we could get from that game concept. Now, I know there are people out there who wouldn't like the idea of doing a time jump, but let's just be completely honest here. It's happened multiple times in the FNAF franchise, and we have to be used to it by this point. And to be completely honest, I like time jumps because it allows for there to be more theorizing for what's going on in between the gaps of one game and the next game. And then later on down the line, we get a game to fill in that gap. It's so much fun to theorize. Now let's address the people in the room who theorize that this is not Cassie, this is actually just the new version of Vanessa or Vanny. Now I did talk a bit about this in my last video, but since then, there's been a couple more things that I've thought about. If Security Breach 2 is going to be a sequel, whether it's after Security Breach or Ruin, we still don't know what ending from Security Breach is canon. And the reason why this is important is there's only a certain number of things that happen to Vanessa in each one of these endings. endings. For one, she's not seen at all and can be assumed that she stayed under Glitchtrap's command, or she's seen still under Glitchtrap's control. Also, she either dies or she's set free. And so, if one of the endings is canon in which she stayed under Glitchtrap's control, it would make sense for her to be the next Vanny villain again. However, when we play Ruin, we see in her den that one of the Princess Quest machines was toppled over and smashed through, possibly meaning that the Princess Quest ending of Security Breach is the canon ending. And so if Security Breach 2 is a sequel to Ruin or Security Breach, how did she get repossessed by Glitchtrap if she was already set free? And to be honest, if that's the case, I feel like that would be very unsatisfying for the story because we just set her free, she was already possessed, and now she gets repossessed by Glitchtrap. It would just be repeating the same story over and over again. Now, if Security Breach 2 is a prequel to Security Breach, that's where things could get interesting. And so with that, make sure to check out this video where I go over the lore surrounding Vanny and if it's possible she's this new character that we got the teaser for. I'll see you over there. Have a fantastic day.